Good evening and welcome to the Neighborhood Passion Affinity Network presented by Google and Neighbor to Neighbor. My name is Jim Hawk and I'll be your host this evening. Tonight, we're focusing on one of the 8 key neighborhood passions, neighborhood safety. And our topic is recognizing and preventing domestic violence in our neighborhoods. Domestic violence is a serious health problem that affects millions of Americans. During this session, we'll explore what domestic violence is, what to do if you suspect domestic violence, and how neighborhood organizations can make a difference. We're pleased to welcome Detective Philip Black and Miss Latoya Townsend from the Family Safety Center, both from the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department's Domestic Violence Unit. The Domestic Violence Division provides intervention, counseling, and advocacy services to victims of domestic abuse and family members affected by it. It also engages in community outreach to raise awareness about domestic violence and educate the public about resources available to them. The division staffs a 24-hour crisis hotline. And I know, even as I was reading that, that there was a few things that wasn't exactly right. It's particularly when it comes to Latoya. So Latoya, why don't you start by introducing yourself, then we'll get Detective Black to do that as well.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me. My name is Latoya Townsend. I am a Detroit native, and I represent the Metro Government of Nashville, Davidson County's Office of Family Safety. My neighborhood is the Chestnut Hill area in South Nashville, right outside of downtown, so not far from the Family Safety Center. And so the Metro Office of Family Safety partners with the Metro Police Department, and I'm sure Detective Black will share more about all the exciting things happening with MNPD. But yes, we are here and a great partner to agencies that serve victims of interpersonal violence, especially domestic violence. And so in a little bit, I'll share a little more about who we are, where you can find us, and the services available. So thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you and welcome. Detective Black.
How are you doing, everyone? I'm Detective Black, Metro Police Domestic Violence Division. I live in Bordeaux Hills, I believe is the closest neighborhood to where I am. But I work at the police headquarters here that's right next door to the Office of Family Safety. Like she mentioned, we have a great partnership with that entity, and I guess I am here for the law enforcement perspective in relation to that. So thank you all for having me.
Thank you. And I forgot to ask when you all came into the room, who's going to start us out tonight? Who wants to start?
I'll start us
All
if
right.
you'd like. I'll do it. Let me start my sharing of my slideshow again. And I will, let's see. All right, 1 second. Okay. So from beginning, I'm going to present, and then I need to get here and share my screen and share sound. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So this is going to be really quick. Oh, I actually have started a message in the chat. So let me go to the chat and hit share now. There we go. Now we're all zoomed out over the last couple of years. So I'm a professional at getting my notes ready in the chat. So again, I'm with the Office of Family Safety. We are one of Metro government's newest departments. So we came to be because there was what's called a safety and accountability assessment done several years ago. And over 100 volunteers, survivors, law enforcement advocates, judges, service providers came together to look at what gaps in service exist for victims of domestic violence from the moment someone calls 911 to post-conviction. And based on that study, recommendations were made. And the majority of those recommendations have to do with there being centralized places for victims of domestic violence to turn to receive support. And so the Office of Family Safety is Metro's convener of all of the partners and agencies within Metro government and the nonprofit community that come together to provide support and services to victims of domestic violence. So let me get my mouse together. There we go. I will add here in the beginning, this can be a really traumatic topic to talk about. There may be some survivors on the call. So feel free to step away if you need to, if it gets overwhelming, and take care of yourself. I have the domestic violence hotline here, and that hotline is 24/7. I do want to also point out that the Metro Office of Family Safety's website has a live chat feature that allows you to seek help during the day. So between the hours of 9 and 5, if you are not necessarily ready to reach out for services, you just want to know your options, or you're too afraid, or it's not safe to, or someone you know is afraid and not safe, and they maybe don't want to leave their home or where they are to seek services, you can connect with us in a nice, discreet, private way. You don't even have to share your name. And I do want to give a disclaimer at this point. If you are currently at home with an abusive partner or family member and it's not safe for you to be on this workshop today, please log off and you'll be able to watch the recording at a time that is safe for you. And please know that you can seek services with the Office of Family Safety when you're ready. So I will add, I do a lot of online shopping. So our live chat feature is not managed by a bot. So it is a live person that communicates with you. So just want to add that in there. So who is the Office of Family Safety? It is our mission to keep victims safe and hold offenders accountable. We serve anyone experiencing interpersonal violence. So that means domestic and sexual violence, child abuse, elder abuse, stalking, and human trafficking. We do that with 2 family justice centers, and the idea behind a family justice center is to be like a super target. And so, you have your clothes, your groceries, your toys, everything you could possibly need. Well, for victims of domestic violence, there may be a person that needs to speak to a detective. They may want an order of protection and the assistance from an advocate. Their children may need therapy. They may need therapy. And rather than have to go all over the city to find a place for help, you come to the one centralized location where you can receive assistance with all of that under one roof. And so our large family justice center is called the Family Safety Center, or the FSC. Walk-ins are available. We are open 24/7. And then we also have a court-based family justice center called the JCAC, or the Gene Crow Advocacy Center. So if you are going through a domestic violence court case, or you have received an order of protection, it's time for the court date, you're able to, rather than sit in the courtroom next to someone that may have harmed you or someone that supports that person, you are able to wait in our facility and receive services and advocacy. So the Family Safety Center, again, is located at 610 Murfreesboro Pike. We are on, there's a bus stop right in front of us, and there's free parking. So it's pretty accessible to get here. The entrance is also discreet, so you don't have to worry about someone seeing you walk into the center, because the actual front door to the center is on the back. It's off of Murfreesboro Pike, so you don't see it off of the street. On this picture, if you're looking closely at it, you see a building to the left. That is the Metro Police headquarters. And then that building on the right is the Family Safety Center. So we are right next door to each other. So close that, in fact, if Detective Black has any technical difficulties, he can run over here and hop in my office and we can carry on together. I'm gonna hit play here. Oh, maybe not. Plan B, I knew that was gonna happen. So I already planned to show this video this way. So are you all able to see a YouTube screen now?
Nope.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop share. Share that screen. Now it will play.
Nashville is a community of many blessings, with a generous spirit and a willingness to help our neighbors. And right now, behind closed doors, there is an epidemic in our country. It has no regard for financial status, creed, race, age, or gender. Domestic violence. Thousands of families are affected in our community. Thousands. And behind closed doors, those who have experienced interpersonal violence can feel they are alone, with no way out, no promise of safety, no hope for the future. Fear becomes their constant companion. And the support system of helpful and healing services can feel difficult to access, even intimidating. But Nashville is committed to change the course of this epidemic. Metro's Office of Family Safety, alongside partner agencies, has led a visionary effort to create one of the world's largest facilities dedicated to helping survivors and improving offender accountability, the Family Safety Center. Our city now offers a central location where those who have experienced domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, or child abuse can find a safe place. A place that offers healing and hope within a welcoming community of experts. It's free and confidential. The Family Safety Center. Our doors are open, so theirs will be as well.
Okay, there we go. Share that screen again. Are we back to the PowerPoint?
Yep.
Perfect. So that's just, that was a real life view of what the Family Safety Center is like. This picture you see here is the entrance off of Murfreesboro Pike there. So very discreet entry. We are open 24/7, even during with COVID precautions. We have plexiglass. All Metro buildings require masks at this point. It's a mandate. So there's safety precaution in place with the mask, the plexiglass, and distancing. And our services are also offered remotely. So if you don't feel safe coming out, you're able to work with an advocate over the computer or over the phone as well. I do want to point out the welcome wall there. So no matter who you are, what neighborhood you're from, what socioeconomic status you come from or have, you are welcome at the Family Safety Center. We are here to support you. And that is the first message you receive when you come in our facility. These are all of the partners we work with. So in that video and verbally, I talked a little bit about who we work with. We work with all of the local domestic violence shelter providers, the district attorney's office, juvenile court, the Legal Aid Society, Tennessee Coalition, the sheriff's office, DCS, a host of partners. Ooh, there's something playing. Is that me?
My
it
sister
is.
Carol and I
A little
grew
surprise
up
video playing there for y'all. Sorry about that. All right. So those are all of the partners that are co-located with us. We have the investigators with the Department of Children's Services on site. We have the counseling division of the police department, which is under the interpersonal crimes branch. I'm sure Detective Black will share a little more about. I won't take the thunder on that. We also have therapy dogs that come through the Habit program that are here to support clients and staff. And so if you come in our facility needing support, there's someone here to assist and serve you, whether it's in person or remotely. Our court-based, sorry about that. Our court-based Family Justice Center is located in the Ben West building, which is attached to the Justice A.A. Birch building. So I just want to show you what that looks like so that if you or someone you know may ever need it, you're a little more comfortable knowing what it's like, because walking into a courthouse can be a bit intimidating. So if you need to come to the JCAC, you worked with an advocate or it's your court date and someone has reached out to you to tell you to come, you go through security like normal, let them know you're here for the JCAC, and then they will direct you to our facility. We have security in front of the JCAC as well. So in addition to the courthouse already having security, we have a guard that sits outside of the JCAC for additional protection and safety. And so we are here to serve victims of interpersonal violence. And this is what it looks like. You wouldn't expect this sort of space to be inside of a courthouse, but it is. And so rather than sit in that courtroom all day or in that crowded hallway upstairs, you can wait in this facility, receive snacks, be able to read, receive all the services offered at both of our centers, free and confidentially. One thing that's beautiful about Nashville is that we have specialized domestic violence judges that are highly trained and skilled to address domestic violence in their courtrooms. We have a whole interpersonal crimes branch of our police department that addresses interpersonal violence. We have a specialized unit in the district attorney's office that addresses domestic violence. So those are things folks may not know if they're not engaging in the system in some way. But it's important to share that you are not alone if you need to address and receive some services related to domestic violence. So just a few pictures of the JCAC there. That's what one of our service rooms looks like there. And these are all of the services available to you. So we offer free assistance with orders of protection, crisis intervention, connection to partners for all emergency assistance. And so we do not have a shelter on site. We are not a part of the police department. So those are the two major questions we get. And we're also not a part of the district attorney's office. We are a partner of all of those agencies that's within Metro government. So I'm going to shift really quickly educationally. You may be wondering if you or someone you know is in a relationship with domestic violence. Domestic violence is about power and control. One person in the relationship wants to maintain power and control over the other. And so some indicators of that are people who want to get involved really quickly. I know I just met you last week, but we need to move in together and I love you, or I have all this money, you don't need to work anymore. And you think about the beginning of a relationship, you're on your best behavior, you look your best, your car is clean, your socks match, everything is wonderful. And everything is charming in the beginning. That's true for healthy relationships, as well as relationships where it's dangerous. And so it's important to look out for some of these signs. If the person has harmed children or animals, they are highly dangerous. If they have sudden mood swings, they say things to hurt you. If they're emotionally abusive, more often than not, that emotional abuse is what comes up first, and then it escalates to that physical violence later. Now, for the services of the Office of Family Safety, you do not have to wait until it gets dangerous or feels dangerous. You do not have to wait until someone assaults you. If you just need to talk to someone and talk through your options to safely address these relationships, we are here to assist. So what you can do to support your community is to listen, make eye contact, let them know you understand that they're dealing with a very difficult situation. It takes a lot of courage to share that you are in a relationship with domestic violence present. It's a very isolating experience. It's not your job to talk someone into leaving. We are here to help. You acknowledge how difficult it is, you believe them, let them know you're concerned, validate them and let them know they're not alone and the abuse is never okay. There's no justification for it. And refer them for resources. So you don't have to put on a purple cape and decide you're gonna go and save the person or intervene in a way that puts you and or them and others in danger. That's what the family safety is here to do. We're not here to put on the purple capes, but we're here to provide the support and services. How to get involved with us? We have a number of ways. We have a Voices Committee that is made up of survivors of violence, and they help inform the work we do so that it is always survivor-centered. There are also ways to donate. We have an Amazon wish list located on our website to donate to our food pantry and other initiatives. There are also plenty of opportunities to volunteer. All of those are available on our website, and I listed that in the chat. Please follow us on social media, on Instagram, or the gram as the young folks call it, OFS Nashville, and on Facebook, we are Office of Family Safety. I know that was really, really quick, and I want to honor y'all's time today. So do you have any questions for me?
I do.
Okay.
if I were to tell someone how to get to you by bus, what would I say? Like, what is the stop or what's the route?
Let me look and get the exact name of the bus stop. There's a bus stop right in front of the metro, right in front of the FSC or the Family Safety Center. But I'll look up while we're still talking the actual name of the route. That way I can give you that exact information.
Okay, and last question is, are homeless women eligible for services? Do you have to have a place that you live or an address?
No, you do not have to have an address to receive services. In fact, a lot of victims of domestic violence are experiencing homelessness because they are victims of domestic violence. So we are here to assist, and likely if they come in and say they have no housing, one of the major main referrals we'd be making and connections would be to our shelter providers.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you. This always gets to be a very emotional issue for me, and I know. First, I want to say how happy I am that somebody named something after Jean Crow. She is such a remarkable woman, and I love her. I was pleased to be able to hang out with her from time to time. But there were other folks like Andrea Conti and my friend Carol Etherington over at Vanderbilt, and Captain Baucom there at the police department, and my neighbor, the retired Detective Sergeant Juana Chick, as well as I think it might be Captain Hunsicker now.
Inspector.
Inspector.
Yeah.
Well, it's all those people that have brought us to where we are today, and I thank you for it. What is the most important policy change that needs to happen in order for you to be more effective on your job? I'm going to throw this little scenario at you. It's not little, and it's very personal. A family member threatens the lives of all the other family members in the domicile, and the family members are scared to do anything because you get a 72-hour stay, and after that, if you could find somebody to put them away for 72 hours, then after 72 hours, there's really not much left to do from what I understand. And so what kind of policy things can we be doing to impact this in a good way?
Detective Black, I think you were you trying to speak before I did?
No, you can go ahead. I was, I guess he directing that question, I guess, to you, or kind of a collaborative effort, or
Well, it does all require a collaborative effort, but to anybody out there.
So with us being a government entity, we inform policy, but we don't lobby. So I'll give that disclaimer to start, because I don't want to get in trouble because we're part of the government. But I will say that one of the most important policies to keep communities safer, in our opinion, is safety regarding firearms. The presence of a firearm increases the likelihood of homicide, and access to a firearm increases the likelihood of homicide with domestic violence by 500%. And I'm very intentional about saying access, because it doesn't have to be that it's the gun, like the owner has the gun. If the person has access to it.
But knowing that's not going to happen in Tennessee, what's the thing that we can actually do to improve safety for a domestic situation?
Other than pushing for that, we're pushing the pendulum. So I always want to encourage people to, educate their community representatives and their legislators about that. But I think it goes way further than anyone realizes to share information about the services available share information about who can help, share options. People have very skewed beliefs about domestic violence a lot of times, and often can have little knowledge about the services available. And people think, oh, this is someone I care about and I don't want to get them in trouble. So rather than judging people for that, letting them know, well, this isn't about getting anyone in trouble. This is about keeping you safe. I'm concerned for your safety. And I'm a social worker by trade. So when I did direct practice and worked with survivors and they had that hesitancy, I would say, an order of protection is civil. So nobody's in trouble unless they violate. And that's their choice if they violate. So you're not getting anyone in trouble by reaching out for services. And so I think that goes a long way. Most of the homicides that happen with people that have not engaged in services. And so the more people know about the options available to them and know that there's a whole team, multidisciplinary team of folks with our office, with the police department, with the DA's office, all of our nonprofit partners, all of us work tirelessly together to make sure gaps in service are closed and people are supported and the offenders are held accountable. So I think that goes a much longer way than people can realize. And it helps. A lot of people, we've heard from so many folks that will say, oh, I didn't even know this existed, or I thought I had to call the police, or I thought I had to do this. I thought y'all were a part of the police department, or I thought I would get in trouble. And who knows what the abuser has said. And so sharing more information about what domestic violence is, supporting people, believing them, and letting them know about the free confidential services located at the Family Safety Center at 610 Murfreesboro Pike are available. I think that goes a long way. And Detective Black, I feel like I've been talking a lot. You're welcome, John.
I have a question.
And I want to make sure at this point that we have an opportunity for Detective Black to share a little bit. So let's move forward with him and then we'll open up for questions again.
Oh, no, it's all right. She laid out a lot of the information that I would end up covering. And it is a partnership. So from the law enforcement perspective, with us, it starts, if we respond to a call of any kind of, domestic discourse, we have a baseline of resources that we offer as far as counseling, order protection, prosecution, or shelter services. And if they accept any part of those services, that triggers a follow-up response on our behalf to either, contact entities involved in that, or if it's prosecution and there's enough probable cause, we can swear the warrant out on their behalf. Or if they want to prosecute and there may not be enough that we see, they would, we can assist them with prosecution, and then we usually bring them to the Family Safety Center. And there's also the lethality assessment, which based on the nature of the relationship, like if it's an intimate relationship, we will ask a series of questions, and depending on what responses are, selected, that triggers an automatic response to the YWCA hotline, and they can put them in partnership with them, and eventually they'll end up referred to the Office of Family Safety for potential follow-ups and further, utilization of services. With our role as detectives in domestic violence, we get those field reports funneled through to our office, and based upon what's available in the report, if a warrant's been taken out, but order of protection wasn't accepted, we'll follow up and say, hey, are you interested in, obtaining an order of protection? And if they have questions about it, we can kind of direct them to our resources here, or we can even meet with them, or, walk them over to the order of protection advocates. If they need counseling, we can put them in contact with that, or if they need shelter services, all the same, we can assist with that. Or if they haven't prosecuted on a report and they want to, we can bring them in, and we have a way to teleconference with the commissioners here at the Family Safety Center. So that way we don't have to send them all around town to utilize resources. It's basically a one-stop shop. And we have a pretty good technology that allows us to video conference. We conduct follow-ups, like I mentioned, with the reports. We accept reports here. If we have a walk-in and they say, hey, I want to speak to a detective, I believe from about, I think 8 in the morning to I think about 5 or 5:30, we have detectives available. And I believe after that latter time, patrol is notified. But if it's an emergency situation, you know, we're always here. We have a couple of detectives here in the evenings that can potentially respond. It's just our resources are limited as far as our detective response in the evenings. But it's all a partnership, like Ms. Townsend mentioned. So if anyone has any questions for me or thoughts, concerns, I can try to address them if there's something that I missed in my part, because I'm not Zoom savvy. So I'm just trying to, you know, recall with all the information that I have, and I have some on my computer screen behind me. So or in front of me, so I can kind of see what I got.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Thomas.
What is the difference between a restraining order and an order of protection?
Excellent question. You want to answer that, Detective Black, or you want me to take it?
We can kind of piggyback off one another. So you can, if you want to start it, and I can come in.
Okay. So I'll use my hands as an example. So a restraining order is something that you likely have to have an attorney to draw up. You can get a restraining order against your neighbor because you can apply for a restraining order against your neighbor because you don't like their sweater. Like very, and serious matters too. But with the order of protection, that is meant to protect people from danger. You do not have to have an attorney to apply for it. Here in Tennessee, there are a few qualifiers. So for you to apply for an order of protection based on domestic violence, there has to be some sort of current or past relationship or cohabitation. So you can get an order of protection against an old roommate, somebody you had a one-night stand with, a current spouse, former spouse, etc. Any sort of domestic relationship. If it is due to sexual violence or stalking, there is no intimate partner relationship or any relationship requirement for it. In addition to that, there's also an elder abuse order of protection that can be requested on behalf of vulnerable adult, for vulnerable adults, so not just elderly. And the order of protections can last a number of times. So when you request an order of protection, initially that is an ex parte order or emergency order. That is good typically for 15 days. It's granted by a commissioner, or we call them night court commissioners, because you can go down there 24/7. And that is good for 15 days until the court date where you go before a judge. If it's granted, it typically lasts for a year. July 1st, a new law came into effect that allows for a lifetime order of protection if the person you want the order of protection against is someone that has criminal charges related to order of protection against you. And I see a question that popped up in the chat. What is the protection afforded by an order of protection? It orders a person to stay away from you, not contact you, not come to your job, your house, to be around you for any reason. It could order them to vacate a place that you live in together. It can order them to stay away from children. If the children are included on that order of protection, it can order them to pay household bills. Like if my husband, I'll give the disclaimer, I am not a survivor. My husband is not an abuser. But if my husband abused me, it could order him to leave the house and for him to pay, make sure not to like sabotage any utilities or anything like that. Can also order a person to stay away from pets and to order custody of the pets, even though they're considered property, to the petitioner who's likely the victim. And it also requires dispossession of firearms. So if you are the respondent on an order of protection, you are required by federal and state law to relinquish your firearms. And it is a civil matter, but that is an order. Violation, absolutely, Inspector, is a criminal offense.
And when
All right, thank you.
Oh, sorry. And I see Inspector Hunsicker pointed out in the chat, it's the violation of the order of protection is a criminal offense. So if that occurs, if someone makes a violation of order of protection report, and they decide, hey, if the officer on the scene didn't see either the person there or something physically, then if there's a message or several phone calls or something, they're able to verify, okay, this is his or her number. Hey, we can go down and try to prosecute. Or if the person, we get a call, we've had it happen where we respond to a call, the abuser is there and there is an active order of protection, and we can just take them right into custody. We can prosecute without them having to come down. And that turns that civil document into a criminal matter. Once it's violated, we can, come in from the law enforcement perspective and seek warrants. And like you mentioned, if there's a case accompanying the order of protection, they can be extended, for a lifetime now as of July 1st. So that was a big plus for us.
Any other questions before we move on to the next little section?
Somebody asked, how long does the order of protection last? Did y'all say that? Did I miss it?
15 days.
Last
15 days. Okay, sorry.
The emergency order lasts 15 days, but once you have the
Right.
court date and go before the judge, it can last up to a year. And then again, if there's a conviction connected to that order of protection, a person can be granted a lifetime order.
That's good stuff. Can you hear me?
We can. Welcome.
Thank you. My house does not have great internet service, so I don't run the video. Otherwise, I'd join in. LT's a rock star, and I appreciate Detective Black. I really enjoy listening to some of the questions. This is Harmon Hunsicker, and I oversee the interpersonal crimes branch for the Metro Nashville Police Department. And I love hearing the questions about strengthening laws, because when we look at domestic violence or any interpersonal violence, we often look at it from 3 tiers: legislate, educate, and enforce. And we have really good laws in Tennessee compared to some other states that I've seen. Our education outreach efforts have been amazing over the last 8 months. We're really in with the Family Safety Center looking for areas where we're seeing higher incidents of interpersonal violence and sending resources out there to distribute information and find the people that are being victimized, to get them to the Office of Family Safety, to get them involved with the service providers that are out there. One of the things that we've seen recently, and we were just talking about orders of protection, is between the district attorney's office, the Office of Family Safety, and the Metro Nashville Police Department, just in domestic violence over the last 8 months, we've started looking at the issue of low bond on high risk offenders. We've looked at people that have charges dismissed where they've created harm in a family. We've looked at educating our commissioners on deterrent signs. The Office of Family Safety created a 13 series class, which is about 13 hours long, on every form of interpersonal violence you can have to educate our folks who are closest to the matter. But I think having folks ask questions about the orders of protection and everything else, it's really important to get the victims away from the offender, get the offender to Family Safety Center, get them somewhere where they can fill out that order of protection. It's much stronger than a restraining order. It's, if we see them violating the order of protection, we can take them into custody, and it's a criminal offense. The restraining order, if we see a violation of that, we can make a report and report it to the judge, but we really don't have a lot of teeth with it. And I think that some of the other issues that are coming up, I'm glad to hear these meetings. And I'm sorry I was a few seconds late, but thanks for all you're doing. And I will be here through the remainder. So if you have any questions, let me know. But again, I love hearing the collaboration, and I love to listen to all the great questions over there. I also put the bus stop in there. There is a bus stop on both sides of Murfreesboro Road, right in front of the Family Safety Center.
Thank you. Well, let's turn it just a little bit, the conversation at this point. The people who are in this room, my experience has been that they're key influencers, that they are people in their neighborhood that other neighbors look to for information. They're people who have a voice. They've learned that they have a voice, and they use that voice 99.9% for the good. And also some of them here are presidents or chairs of their neighborhood association. And I'd like for all of us, but especially with your all's expertise, to think about, how can these key influencers help support the work that's going on? What are the things that we can say? And also, what can neighborhood organizations be doing to help folks that are either in this situation or I guess prevent domestic violence? Because, you know, the neighborhood organization is in the neighborhood and those houses are in that neighborhood. So what can we be doing that will support your work and also be meaningful to us so that we can make a difference as well? Think about that.
That's a
Yeah.
beautiful question, Jim. That's the perfect question. And you know, when it comes, if I remember the numbers correctly, back when it was a black and white television we were looking at, somebody on this call has been around or have been a victim of domestic violence, or I think it's that close to us in this little group here. So one of the questions I think is, how do you see domestic violence in your neighbor? You know, what are there some traits that we could be looking for in our neighbors? And then if we identify those traits, what do we do?
And I think too, while you're thinking about that question, just real quick, what we want to avoid and make clear is this isn't about being a vigilante. This isn't about, right, we're going to take on the role of, and you weren't saying that, John, but for those who are watching my video, nor are we saying that you're supposed to be a Mrs. Kravitz where you're looking in people's houses to try to figure out whether they're doing it. But in your daily life, right, John, you see these things. Is there anything that we can do to recognize? Yeah.
You know, I would say to that, and we get that question a lot in trainings. Metro government has a domestic violence in the workplace policy. So we're required to educate all over 10,000 Metro employees on recognizing the signs of domestic violence and where to go for help. And so what I always say in those is, we spend a lot of time with our colleagues. We spend a lot of time around our neighbors. We know when someone got a new car, when they got a new edger, cut the grass, washing the windows, all the fun stuff. I know when my neighbors are going out of town. I know when someone got a new pet. So we notice all those things. We also notice if something's not right. We notice if someone seems a bit timid around their family member, or if people can't come and go as they please. And you end up, depending on how close you are to your neighbors, people share certain things with you. And so what to do when you have that isn't to tell people to leave. And I know that's very hard because that's our natural inclination. I have friends that are survivors, and my professional answer for them is sometimes a lot different than my personal answer. I'll be transparent there. But what's important is to let people know that you are there and you support them in any practical way that you can. So if a person says, I don't know when I can get an order of protection, my kids are at school. Oh, just so happen our kids go to the same school. If you want to let them hang out back with my kids for a few hours, or you want to come over and apply for the order of protection on my computer and you're sitting here with me, that's cool. You don't have to overextend yourself and say, come on, move in with me, or we're going to go beat up the abuser. You don't have to do any of that. They're very practical ways that we can support each other. Sharing information about what's available. Abusive partners they isolate people away from the people that support them, right? So never take for granted the value of information. Hey, I was on this great call with this fabulous lady named Latoya and this really cool Detective Black. They were telling us about all these resources available. And it doesn't have to be, hey, I know you're a victim. You need to go to this place. You can plant seeds with people, and they may never tell you that they are a survivor, but they have heard you tell them about a place. And because you're a trusted person in the community, they will value what you've shared. Like, oh, I have to check that place out because my good friend John told me about it, so I know it's good. And thank you so much for sharing in the chat, everyone.
And I'd like to chime in on that. The fact that we have the Family Safety Center we have a centralized location, and we have detectives readily available next door. So if you're like, if that person does decide they want to utilize resources, but you may not want police at your house, you know, of course, you got the blue and white cars. They're very distinct in Nashville. So they're like, oh, police are there, or even unmarked are of those marked units. So they may recognize those cars as well, but they can come here and we can have detectives readily available to come assist with, if they want, you know, documentation. And if not, they may just want to talk to us and say, hey, you know, what are my options as far as reporting? I don't want to report right now, but if I decided in the future, what steps could I take? And we are here to be able to assist them. And also we can, you know, email the advocates or physically, you know, go to someone's door and say, hey, I have someone down here that would like to, you know, kind of discuss some things, either, you know, develop a safety plan, border protection. They're interested in shelter services. They don't want police involvement, but they want to potentially relocate. We can kind of assist them and try to point them in the right direction with that. And that really does help us out with us being all in one location, even though it's separate buildings. We're all still, you know, right here partnering with one another.
And I think too, we've been talking a lot in NPAN sessions about website and newsletter recently. But I'm not sure this Office of Family Safety or the Domestic Violence Division, but has a lot of social media posts that give contact information, that give, you know, little ads. And if you were to contact them and ask them for them or download them from their pages, putting that on your website, putting that, you know, in your newsletter. It doesn't have to be, you know, every newsletter, but if it's in there, you know, often, if it's always on your website, someone that knows or goes to that website will realize that you care about them and will realize that someone's doing it. One of the things that we talked about today when we were preparing for this is, you know, we have our Facebook page, we have our Twitter page, and once a month, we're going to be posting, at least making one post about domestic violence. And you could do the same thing on your Facebook page, on your Nextdoor page, either as an individual or as a neighborhood association. And that also gets the word out. Okay, there you go. There's a whole bunch of website information there that's coming up on the chat. And John Stern's doing it right now. Thanks, John. Well, we are getting close to, we're down to the 2-minute warning. Is there any other questions that folks have tonight before we begin to wrap up? Okay, it's quiet. And if this group is quiet, then they really don't have anything because I just thank you both. Thank you, Detective Black. Thank you, Ms. Townsend, for being here tonight. I want to remind everyone that next week, Nate Fields is going to be here. He is the owner of a new company called Plant for Change. And we're going to be talking about cultivating wildflowers in your neighborhood. And Wacy Zani, who is on this call, she and I have been doing a lot of research about the pollinator loss in our city and how important wildflowers are not only to the pollinators, but to our own mental health. And so we want to encourage you to come back. Nate is doing some incredible work with people who are mentally and emotionally challenged with his company to help create seeds for change. And so I'd like you to come back next week to hear that. I put in the chat room a link to that site. Just remember also, we don't automatically sign you up to receive our newsletters just because you registered for this class. We believe in opt-in. And so if you want to go to our website and sign up to receive our weekly newsletter, you are welcome to do that. All right. Thank you both for being here. Thank everybody for being here and for chiming in tonight. Remember that great neighborhoods do not happen by accident. It takes you and your neighbors working together to make a positive difference right where you live. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week.
Good night. Thank
Bye.
you.
All right, appreciate you.